Sharon's here.
Hi.
Hi, Sharon. Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Siddharth.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just telling everyone how I just checked the pronunciation of your names with you,
Good
so
job.
we're good there. And is Anuya? Yes, she has sent a request, and yes, we
Nice
have her.
bookshelf, friend. Very nice.
Thank you so much. I always use this for my podcast and this thing. It's very convenient that way. But I'll show you the rest. Like,
Hi, I can't hear you.
can
I. Oh,
can everyone think my AirPods keep malfunctioning when we go on
no,
the
no,
news?
no. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Perfect, perfect. Hi, Anuya. Hello.
Hi, friends.
And welcome to Kitabi Live with Kitabi Karwan. And I don't know, I know I didn't tell this to you on the on the email that I sent you guys, but you guys are partly the inspiration behind my page. So thank you so much for doing
Oh
this.
my God.
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Okay, so
Yay!
I'll take up the first 2 minutes to ramble a bit before we have on. So when I started Kitabi Karwan, like 90% of the reason was because I was bored of the content on internet with about books, reading ever since I was a child, and I used to hate the kind of reviews that used to come up on pages and on they used to be very mechanical and stuff. So I used to, and Books and Toast was a page that I really liked because you guys are so like. I mean, look at the recent post you guys put up, like the one about Anuya's reading Ishiguro. Like that is such a that's the kind of content I want to see about books. What people feel about books, and that is where Kitab Karwan from. And also, like, my podcast was also inspired from like conversations you guys had with other authors. Because I mean, I used to go to Lit Fests and all those things and watch interviews, but they're again so
Boring.
polished and yeah, like I mean, you don't really get much to know much about the author or like what their writing process is and everything. So again, thank you so much for like, and I know this stands for like a lot of people who are bookstagrammers right now. You guys have inspired a lot of them, so that's thank you so much for like coming up with this entire idea of Books and Toast. And that is actually my first question to both of you. I recently saw on your Q&A that you did on Instagram. There is a not safe for work story and there's a safe for work story.
Yes.
And it's telling me either, but how did this all start?
Anuya, please give non.
I don't understand what he's talking about. What not safe for work story?
Never mind. I had done like an AMA and people asked me how we started Books on Toast. So I said, Anuya has a not safe for work story. I have a safe for work story.
Oh,
but we love each other. Oh, that.
That not safe for work story.
That one, yes.
That's the one.
Okay, well, Siddharth, thank you so much for your kind words at the beginning of this conversation. How nice it is that we inspired you. So I think maybe we should only tell you quit while you're ahead. It's a fabulous job. Find something that you can make money from.
नहीं वो मैं टेंशन नहीं है ये
Great. Okay. So should we tell them the not safe for work story? What if there are kids here?
There might be kids.
ऐसा क्या? I don't think there would be too many kids. We can we come up with metaphors which kids cannot?
Sure. Let's do metaphors. Okay. So I had to come up with a name for this for Books on Toast within an afternoon because it started off as an event. So there was a general brainstorm happening with me and my friends, and I really wanted to name it. Now there is no way to make this NSFW, but yeah, thank you, words. Wali kids are not interested in books these days. She's right. So as everybody knows, if they view Books on Toast, they know that I like puns a lot. So I really wanted to name it Bukake. Now, Siddharth, do you know what Bukake means?
I think my mother's also going to be watching this later.
Oh shit! Now he tells us.
I have no idea what all this means. I don't know what you're talking about.
He has no idea.
It means being showered by books.
Right. Oh, like
showered by books.
Now yeah. you put me in a place where I don't want to admit and not admit to this bit. Okay. Okay. So it was as obviously it is that Bukak was elected for certain, for I don't know, whatever reason, there was a nice name could have.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, when Sharon and I decided to do Books on Toast together, again I tried to convince her, but she shut it down. So that was the first time my freedom of speech was taken away from me.
Yeah.
Then more
Yes, section 144 from childhood. Yes.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah. So what's the safe for work story then? What's the other side?
I mean,
the safe for work story is that Books on Toast is a great pun in itself. I think that's good enough. The fact that it's also a pun and it's yeah, there's no innuendo there. But okay, anyway, the safer work story is just this, that Anuya had been running Books on Toast for a while as a sale of secondhand books.
Okay.
And she was very active on Twitter. And this is when Twitter was peak. Twitter was a fun place for like-minded people to just chit chat.
They were not hitting on each other the entire time and like trolling each other.
No, dude, we used to have weird fun things like Friday follow hashtag. That was
yeah,
what it was.
that was so nice.
Damn, I wouldn't.
That was we used to have tweet ups and things like that. I think that was the original influencer space, So it was really nice, safe, fun space for people to interact, and people would ask for recommendations and they would get recommendations. And that's how I met Anuya, because I think I used to run an art and culture space with my husband called The Hive in Bandra, and we had just opened, and our idea was to sort of provide a safe space for artists or people with artistic pursuits to sort of come and do whatever they felt like doing.
Right.
So when Anuya sort of put out on Twitter that she was looking for a place to, run her book sale, I immediately got in touch with her and we met, we jammed on a few ideas, and the book sale eventually became like a festival, So it was just such a beautiful sort of space where people would come in for 2 days. They would interact with like book lovers. We had quizzes, we had like fun shows, games, talks, sessions. I don't know, like weird things we used to do. We used to even like come up with themed food. We did a Harry Potter festival as well before Harry Potter was cancelled, and we found out you couldn't do it also. Anyway, so that was that's a story of origin.
Copyright thing was that?
Yeah, completely legal.
What? No.
You could do like Barry Hotter or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's before it was cancelled. But that's such a cute, and that's why, like, I think a lot of, as you can see in the comments, you guys have a lot of fans. People like your work, appreciate it a lot, and that's largely because of how candid and like how much you love books, and like it's very obvious to talk to you or see you guys about books that it's something that goes to the core of your being. So, like, this is a question I want to ask both of you, like, individually. What is it that, drives you towards books? Like, is there a story behind it? Like, did you just start reading as a kid? Was there a purpose behind you guys getting into reading? Or, like, like, what exactly drove you towards books?
Whom do you want to answer first? Like, whom do you want?
Yes, however it works.
Sharin, tum kar le.
Acha, okay. So first I want to say hi, Smriti and Vivek. Vivek has a very fun story of how he got so competitive that he pushed someone off a chair during a book quiz. That happened
during a Books on Toast quiz.
Yes,
he just got up and like, yeah, this answer. And then his partner just flew off the chair, and we were just like, this is what we live for. This is why we do
what
this.
we live for. Yeah, exactly. So for me, reading has been like akin to second nature. I mean, I grew up like in a small town. I didn't have many friends. I was like a pariah. I used to, and I think people didn't really get my energy. I think people still don't get my energy. I'm quite like that. So that's how I made sense of my world. I was also a single child till I was 10 years old, and so I just found my outlet to the world through books. I really felt like characters I would read in books were my real friends, and their worlds were the worlds I lived in. And so I think it's just a habit that has sort of stayed on with me. I'm a little weird, and I love it because books forgave me for being weird. So I mean, yeah, that's why I read books.
That's an interesting takeaway, but someone just like made a really interesting comment. Chandigarh is not a small town.
Oh really? I mean, yeah, well, now all roadies come from Chandigarh, but back in the day, it was a small town.
And that's such a interesting anecdote, right? Like books let you be weird. Like, I mean, I remember, I think the first book I remember reading, like, although I did read a few, like famous Five Secret Sevens, but like the first book, proper book I remember reading was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And like the kind of what I imagine was like, I think I felt that I couldn't really discuss it with people, okay, this is how Harry looks or how Hermione looks, just based on descriptions and like how you let your mind flow. But that is so true, right? What about you, Anuya? Like, what was your driver towards books?
My father. I'm pretty sure he shoved a tiny book in my hand the minute I was born. He just said, "Yele, if you don't read, I will disown you." But I think the smartest thing, that my parents did since I was a child was they kept buying me books. And to be honest, I don't know. I've just like read for as long as I have known. I liked books. I liked reading all the kids' books when I was a child, and then then I hit my teens, and of course, all of us went through Enid Blyton because we had libraries that stocked them exclusively, right? It was all famous Five Secret Seven, Mallory Towers, and Noddy. You guys remember Noddy? I read so much Noddy.
I
it's
love
that you look
Noddy.
like you're a young kid. Yeah, so maybe you didn't.
And I think I kind of relate to that, like this reading since childhood. But like I think my mother's a huge like bibliophile, so and she used to read a lot in like Hindi, but like quite keen on me like getting into reading. So I don't know if you guys know Magic Pot, like that magazine.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Malayalam Manorama's magazine.
Yeah.
Like I was a kid, like you remember Lutapi the Devil and like the stories they had.
I remember.
Where I picked up reading from, and I think even though library bit, like my school library was like a very bare minimum one. It had all these like reference books, but in fiction we only had like Enid Blyton. I remember one of the first books that I picked up from there was Robinson Crusoe, like a abridged version. But I used to sneak out and like read it over there. Like the librarian used to be like nice to me because I was the only person who would come in. But that brings the next sad question. Like, why do you think that people today, okay, maybe that's people is too general a term because I do know a lot of people of across ages who read, but I do also know of a lot of younger people who don't like to read. Particularly, someone mentioned Karate Tales. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I just saw Karate Tales.
Standard read, yes. Karate Tales.
Karate Tales.
I remember. Nah. Oh, shit. I shouldn't get
Tinkle, guys.
Yeah,
Champak.
Tinkle and Champak are OG stuff. Supandi and everything. But coming back to this, like I mean, look at us. Look, all of us have so many memories of like reading so many different. And I have a sister who's like 6 years younger to me who does not read at all, and that's something I've seen with like a lot of people younger to me. Like I'm 26, and people my age don't read a lot, let alone like people younger. So why do you think this is happening? Do you think like books are, and I don't think books are getting like, I don't know, boring in terms of their content that's coming out? Like if I'm just purely taking it in a very empirical, scientific way, measuring the interest of the content versus what's being generated, do you think like people are just think books are not useful anymore? Is that?
No, I really feel like it's got a lot to do with the attention spans, right? And also the fact that ultimately, why do you read a book? You read a book to read a story, right? And if you have so many other formats of storytelling that are attacking you every day, like Netflix or YouTube or whatever, then I feel like one of the reasons why people might not feel like they could be reading is possibly because they have other avenues from where they can get the stories. Like you, Siddharth, like your sister is 6 years younger than you, my brother is 10 years younger than me, right? Like, and he's a nerd, but he doesn't read. And we've been brought up in the same household by the same set of parents who encouraged us to read a lot. But it's just that it's something that he just never got into because by the time he was growing up, he had Cartoon Network to watch. I had Doordarshan. So, I guess that may be it,
So I would not blame Cartoon Network because I grew up in Cartoon
Network. I watched a lot of Cartoon Network and I still read. But you're right. attention spans are reducing because of how much competition there is for your limited leisure time. So people prefer the easy thing to do. A book feels like a commitment, even though it's not.
Yeah.
But it feels like a commitment, whereas Netflix is giving me the same shit one tiny episode at a time. I love Netflix. Nothing against Netflix. But, also reels need to be burned to the ground, is what I believe. So, yeah. Just there is a reel right now where women show their face, make a face, and then they show their waist. That's a reel. Yeah, and they have millions of views. It's like first you show face, then you show waist. That's a reel. And they're thin waist. So people we are slowly becoming those McDonald's eating, in Wall-E, those people in the sky who are just like obsessed in front of a TV eating fast food all the time.
I think
That
our
is what's
bodies are also
happening.
becoming like that. So I think we'll fit in right in.
100%. So I
Blocks
think
on
like it's up
chairs.
to us to consciously like unplug and read, which nobody's going to do, right? It's too much work. Everybody wants things to be easy now.
Yeah.
Although I hope this
Fast, right?
pandemic is
Fast.
forcing me to,
And
exactly,
it's also got to do with, I think, the ease with which you are getting that content. Because I remember, like, pretty sure with you guys as well, like, internet was first, that modem wala internet, jo pehle wo photograph par hoti thi. Like that thing, and then like stuff like that. Now it's just like you don't need to wait for anything. It's right there, served in front of you. There's no, and I think people also associate books with like effort. Somehow watching, like, even though it's the exact same kind of effort in terms of like you're watching a screen or like reading for 40 minutes.
It is, yeah.
They draw this odd parallel between the things. So like an odd trick that I've been using for the past like 10 years is to kind of shove books into people's hand about things that interest them, and just like trick them into thinking that this is something that they will enjoy rather than see it as a task. And then maybe like out of 10, like maybe one person more picks up a book. Like I did. So a lot of my friends are like
1 out of 10. A lot of your friends
are football fans. So I was never into football, but when Sir Alex Ferguson came out with the book, I knew he was like big enough for like a football person to like read and this thing. So I just like gifted the book copies to my all of them, and I'm very lucky 2 of them actually started reading. So this thing. But
a useful tip to convert people is audiobooks.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if they like podcasts, then it's an easy trick.
There's a huge opposition, and there's this odd bit that I don't understand about, there's this debate that earlier used to be about Kindle, like ebooks versus books, and now it's moved on to this like ebooks versus audiobooks versus books, which I don't understand. Like you're reading a book, like now it depends on how you want to consume it, how you're comfortable with it, and people like come to like they're like that in Twitter thing, trolling each other over, oh, you listening. Do you think that's so weird, so weird, but like that actually do something
that's hilarious.
like talk about it. So when I was growing up, and like I'm guilty of this, right? I was like I had a phase where initially I used to read like everything, and then obviously my reading taste changed and evolved and everything. But there was a phase in my life when I used to like judge people for reading certain kind of fiction or like certain kind of books that they're writing. Like I would actually go ahead and actually like name the person. I would like judge hate on like say people reading Chetan books. I'm like, oh, you're not a reader, and this. It was like probably like late teens, not late teen, early teens, 17. And later on, I realized, and now I realize that this is like a very classist behavior. I think that a lot of people in the reading community have. And that's why I'm asking this question, because a lot of people who are attending the live would just be people who read. So where do you think like this? Do you think it's just a classist thing, or is there an actual proper lack of like I know quality content there? Because there has been an emergence of this trend of writers who are just like who write stuff which by your old standards or by generic standards can be defined as mediocre in terms of what kind of literature is being generated. But at the same time, one like the other side of the argument is, well, it's getting people to read, it's reaching the masses, it's more it is a more democratic form of looking at literature. What's your like stand or like take on it? Like what's your 2 cents?
So before, I think we did an interview with Durjoy Datta. Okay, Kunal Kamra did it on our channel. And Durjoy said, if people are reading my books, not that I'm saying Durjoy's work is bad, I haven't read enough to have an opinion on it. But it's like if people are reading my books and then moving on to good literature, like moving on to Salman Rushdie, then what's the harm in that? Then what's the harm? So he said it, and after he's right. I mean, we are human. We can't help but judge people. I judge people who watch Big Boss. Vivek is a huge Big Boss fan, by the way. Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? Who watches Big Boss? Okay, when there is so much stuff on the internet, that's better. But I feel like while it is hard to not judge, you shouldn't. You shouldn't, because any form of reading right now is has to be encouraged, because it's a losing battle we are flying. Not that I think that books are going to be extinct anytime soon. So much of pop culture is still books. Marvel is all just books. It's all books that, right? So I don't feel that books are endangered or threatened in any way. But I do feel that given how much the habit is declining, I think all forms of reading is good. People are reading, let them read. Eventually they will be like, okay, I'm done with all of this. What do I do next? And that's when you can start making them read Circe, the book behind you.
Yeah, I've been just staring at that book. It's amazing how you have that book. I love this book.
It actually blew my mind like the first time I read it.
It is, right? How many times have you read it?
I've read it twice.
Yeah, I just finished reading it for the third time again.
Oh wow!
It's one of those books I keep going back to, like every now and then when I feel like I really need to read something that really immerses me. And it's like, so this argument is also like watching the difference between watching, say, CSI and Mayor of Easttown, right? Like both are like crime fiction shows. One is really, really good and very, very well produced, and story wise is phenomenal. The other one is just masala, So I mean, if you're eating food, you need like a balanced diet, right? Like it's fine, it's okay. I mean,
you need some junk.
You need some junk. Honestly, I love reading. I love reading trash all the time, and I'm not talk about the trash I read because I read it all the time. But like it's stuff that really helps me come out of a reading slump, and I've spoken about it quite a lot. Like for a person who's been a primary reader all her life, I hit like a major reading slump this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, I need it to like sort of pull me out. Like sometimes I just want some ganda masala just to sort of I need it like after a bad hangover. It's just exactly that. So it's fine, and like so it's okay.
But I must say that I draw the line at typos in the copy. That pisses me off like nothing pisses me off.
There is so much of it now.
Yeah. I mean, write a simple story, write a story for the masses. I don't care about the quality of your language. It's okay. It doesn't have to have highfalutin English words to be literature, right? My issue is if there is a typo on page 1, then just like, you're an author, right? You're an author who has been hired, paid money to write in English. Know the basic tenets of the language, get the grammar. Just not even, write colloquially. If that's your style, fine.
Yes.
But spelling mistakes, I mean, I feel like that's
a huge.
I mean, that doesn't do it for me at all. And that's an Indian publishing wide issue. I've seen that in some major works of literature also. But that's okay. 1 or 2 typos chalta hai. But here, har page pe typo can't. That is a pet peeve.
Right. Like I think हर page पे typo तो मतलब is unforgivable. Like बीच में कभी आ गया, it's like everyone.
One typo in the book, okay, you know what? Yeah, human error. People are not perfect.
Right.
But just Chetan Bhagat's book has a typo on the front page. That cricket wala book, whatever it was called, which became Typo Che, which was a very good movie. I think Chetan Bhagat writes great movies.
Exactly.
So much books.
Stories, na.
With one of my friends in college. Okay, so Chetan Bhagat became our guilty pleasure. So we'd read each Chetan Bhagat and then book, and then we'd like think that अच्छा ये तो सीधा ही movie बन सकती है. अब it's like it's a script, not a book after a point in time. Like
Sorry,
Chetan.
Typo Che by Chetan Bhagat is hilarious.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really funny, Joel.
But
This
like
Tanushri also, I think in the comment section said that on your point, Siddharth, on is certain literature classist, and she spoke about the subtle art of not giving a fuck, and then of course like uh, this guy though again like it's such a mind-numbing book, right? Like I don't know if you've read it. I know a lot of people have so many opinions about it. You have read it, right? So I feel like it's a book which it is just possibly peddling stuff to us that a lot of people have already told us, but he just speaks about it from such a white male privileged perspective that it really got under my skin, and I'm like, why is he writing now? He's writing Will Smith's memoir, which really goes to show, right? Like it really doesn't matter if you can write well, if you can have an opinion and write well. It really matters if you're a bestseller. So, so that's what it comes down to. But it's fine.
so
And in India, a bestseller needs to sell 6,000 books. Okay.
That is also true, huh?
such a sad thing. Like I remember, like you mentioned like someone who writes colloquially, and like the first person who popped in my head is one of my favorite authors, Anuja Jakatdar. You guys like recently is
We love
like
her.
I absolutely love the way she writes. Like she revolutionized the way I read. Like and in a very odd way. Like so, I was 13 or 14 when I read the Zoya Factor for the first time, and I remember fun of a lot when I was reading Anuja Chauhan because like she was deemed to be like chick flick or whatever kind of thing you're writing. But I absolutely like it changed me because it was the first time I read an author using Indian like Hindi
Who
words.
spoke like us? Yeah, who talked like we talked,
Yeah,
you know.
what fiction doesn't necessarily have to be like like characters you have to imagine beyond yourself. These are अच्छा ये uncle auntie you देख सकते हो तुम real life में ये होते हैं.
Yeah.
And like her work is absolutely like that
Outstanding.
it's wonderful. But like the point that came up was she told me on like a podcast interview that like if she sells 20 more, a person who sells more than 20,000 books is like considered to be like a huge author and things like that. And I'm not very publishing industries. It's like I don't know. So that kind of made me feel
Vivek.
I know. Sorry, we are very distracted by Vivek's comments.
yeah.
Vivek, we love you. He's like, I
Just
really wish people told each other about books. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
man,
Yeah, go
I think
ahead.
I would want to have like Vivek and
You
but yeah,
must
like
get
that's just a
Vivek.
very
Definitely, you should.
like we can sit in the
I can't hear
like,
you.
yeah. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think your voice fades and comes back, but
No,
that's
it
fine
just
now. So you were trying to make a point about your bestsellers. That's where we were.
yeah, like it's just a very requires like 20,000, just 20,000 books can make you a bestseller,
Yeah.
which is says so much about where we are today as a society in terms of reading and and particularly like I like I mean not like no disrespect to blogging or any form of like internet communication or like this Insta generation of content, but the very fact that when you put a name on something that's permanent, which cannot be changed, I think it kind of pins a moral or I know some subconscious level responsibility on you to kind of research your book or add something to it or give it a lot more thought than like say a stupid caption that you put up on or like a blog that you can go back and edit at any point of time, like the typos that you pointed out, right? Something like that. But again, like let's not get into the sad stuff of reading. Let's get back to the fun things. So I know obviously you guys read a lot in English. Would you read any other language, right? Like is there literature or any non-fiction that you consume in language?
So I tried reading a little bit of Punjabi this year, and I tried reading Amrita Shergill's original pieces. It took me some time. I needed to sit with my dad and get him to read it to me. That's when I realized my grasp on the language, it's like become really bad. But yeah, that's what I have experimented with in the recent times. What about you?
So
I know.
No.
No other
What?
language.
Which you were you asking?
You
There are
only,
two
you.
yous.
You too.
No, I haven't. I can't. I once tried reading The Omen in Marathi. That was my most valiant attempt. Yeah. someone had written an Omen book, and then that Omen book was translated in Marathi, and for some reason it showed up in my house. Your mother's correcting you, Sharin. I love it.
What is she saying?
She's here and she's correcting you.
Wait,
I can't see. What is she saying?
He said Amrita Preetham. You
Sorry,
said Amrita.
mother. My bad. Amrita share gele jai nadari mundu. Amrita Preetham.
That's hilarious. Mothers, they come everywhere and they correct you.
But like, like my mother reads a lot in Hindi, and my Hindi, even though I can speak like linguistically I can speak Hindi अच्छे से, but reading and like वो एक colonial hangover है देश में कि पढ़ाई तो हुई है English में.
I blame all these English medium educations that our parents gave us. It's their fault. If they wanted us,
you have been blaming your dad for quite some time.
Everything, yeah.
No, and
everything.
But over the last couple of years now, I have had two instances which have made me think a lot about this, right? One was when, so my mother self-published some of her short stories for her 50th birthday. That was one of her, goals. So she wrote like a bunch of short, self-published them. And so because I read, so she used to take, come back to me for feedback on like the narrative. And that's when I realized kind of emotive language that Hindi is times what English cannot be, right? And the problem also came across when she's like, okay, let's try translating it. Maybe we can, release a translated edition. And while we was obviously we never kind of got like we decided not to outsource it. We decided to do it together. And we were struggling to, translate it into English because there are certain emotions and certain feelings which you just can't capture.
Yeah.
And like on my podcast, I had a translator, Debali Mukherjee, who translated Rokto. It's a 1960s ki novel by Sunil Gangopadhyay, who was a very well-known Bengali writer. And while talking about this, she made a very interesting point, right? Like, जैसे Hindi में या Indian languages में, you have unique words for all your relations. Like you have Tauji, Taiji, Chacha, Chachi, kind of thing. And in English, you don't. And like how...
Uncle, aunt, yeah.
It's always uncle, aunt, and even like Jhumpa Lahiri talks about it in other words. Like that also, like I'm a huge Jhumpa Lahiri fan, and like in words blew my mind, and even the story behind it, like she just decided to call it quits, went to Rome, learned Italian, and wrote it in Italian, and she wrote so well about those things, right? Words have so much culture and context built into them, and like sometimes this language barrier is just such a difficult thing. And like after that, I made it a point to like push myself to read more.
So another trick here is audiobooks again, because these are languages you understand and appreciate, but can't read in. So just listen to these books in Marathi, Hindi, Punjabi, and you won't miss out, and the literature will live on. I think it's the best hack. And like I said, I used to listen to Marathi books before I even knew audiobooks were a thing. Like Pula Deshpande used to record his books entirely and he performed them, right? So he used to perform them and they were a staple in my household. We used to, on Sundays, listen to his plays and his works, and because he was funny, right? And it's impossible to translate that into English. There is no way you'll capture. Some of the jokes are Marathi wordplay. How the fuck will that make sense in any other language? It won't. It's a pun in Marathi. It's not going to make sense. Right. So things like that. So that it's a great hack to everybody listening. If you're like, oh, how can I read in my language? Just listen. It's a very, very effective way to sort of not let the literature die. But also, if you are having trouble reading it, you don't have to force yourself to read it.
Yeah, Audible or Storytel should sign you on as like a brand ambassador. For sure.
Storytel does pay us quite a lot of money, so. Storytel pays us.
But yeah, that's true. And like, and this actually inspired a very odd ulta thought. Like, I think I think Vivek commented about the Murakamis on my shelf. And
yeah.
So, and even one of the other authors that I could think of was Gabriel Marquez. Both their works are actually translated works, right?
Yeah.
And what about, say, the Colombian culture or Japanese culture or like what they're talking about through their books. but it also makes me think that, well, what is it that I'm missing out on? Because there would be something that would be lost in translation, right? There is something that what Murakami actually is writing in his original Japanese, and which have been this thing, and that's a very strong comment, Anuya. But like I think that'll inspire, right? But ठीक है.
Sharon will agree. Vivek will also agree.
अच्छा, ऐसा क्या?
He's reviewed that book on our channel.
Which was the last one? Which last Murakami did you read?
Commander Tare. Commander Tare.
No, not that one. He came up with I don't want to break Murakami fans' hearts, but he came up with like a collection of short stories called First Person Singular.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it is it's very weird in the sense that some of these like I know that he's in his 70s getting into 80s, so I'm sure that he is also thinking about a lot of no we will not say weird things and make assumptions. What happened to all this nonsense? Okay, no. We are moving on. I feel translations are good. Good stories. Okay. No, but I'll tell you what, I think we had gone to Kerala Literature Festival about 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, just before pandemic hit us. And I think one of the interesting things that I carried from there was the fact that a lot of people were talking about translations being done in other regional languages.
Right.
I'm not sure if it was there or we were talking about it at JCB Literature Fest. Maybe at JCB, right? So I think the whole point was that great stories endure languages and cultures as well, right? Like that's how we've come to discover, like you rightly pointed out, Murakami, Marquez, so many more. And I feel like even somebody like K.R. Meera, right? Like one of her books called Hang Woman, it really blew my mind. Here was a woman who had written in Malayalam about a Bengali family, and it was such a strong piece of feminist literature. And I think it was I read, of course, the English version, but imagine the amount of like cultural inception in this book, right? Like it's a book in Malayalam written about a Bengali family, Bengali culture. It's been translated into English, and I have received this book, and I wouldn't have ever discovered it if somebody did not make the effort to translate it for me, right? So I'm sure that a lot of the original nuance was lost, but the story for me was original from the perspective of the fact that I was reading it in a language that I spoke and understood for the first time. So for me, I was like, wow, what are you doing, Anuya, in the comment section? You are just having a side conversation. Yeah, but guys, translations are all right. It's the point of the story. We are all talking over each other at this point. So Big Boss ka ghar hai ye. This is Big Boss book version. This is what is happening.
But who's being Big Boss here? That's something I don't understand. Is Vivek being Big Boss here?
This is very intellectual Big Boss it is.
I know,
Big Boss.
Literally Big Boss.
Billy Ghost is not intellectual तो नहीं होगा, but sure, semi उधर तक पहुंच सकते हैं.
Okay, wait, let's talk about this. If you were to put some authors in a Big Boss ka ghar, right? Like international authors, Indian authors, whom would you put? I mean, definitely there would be a Chetan Bhagat, 100%. Or maybe he is the Big Boss. I don't know.
No. Yeah, no, I don't want. No. Like I don't want like Chetan Bhagat giving like a task to Jhumpa Lahiri ki acha write a book where you write a scene where the hero is chasing someone through New York ka wind snow like for 2 chapters. वो सब task नहीं देखे जाएंगे. But let's like nominate one each.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's go for some orthodox choices. Oh, this is difficult. I would maybe.
Did you say unorthodox choices or orthodox choices?
Like unorthodox. Orthodox choices.
Unorthodox.
Yeah. I would really want to see Vivek Shanbag.
Vivek Shanbag would be very interesting.
Yeah, like very interesting. Like, Burak.
I really see how Siddharth is struggling to keep it together. This line has lost the plot.
But my nominations. What about you guys? One each.
Anuya, come on, focus. Answer this question. Nominate 3 authors now.
I'll let Vivek make a nomination as well.
Vivek has nominated 5-6 times. If you have not noticed.
Vivek Shanbhag won't say anything controversial. What's the point? You need like controversial authors.
No, you'll have someone like you need to bring in someone controversial who just like side se ungli kare usko, someone like.
I have to bring on. Then I say Durjoy. Not that Durjoy is called. Hey, Manu Joseph.
Oh yeah, Manu Joseph would.
Manu Joseph will be great in Author Big Boss. वो सिर्फ कीड़ा करेगा, उंगली करेगा, मारामारी करवाएगा, वो मजा आएगा. I put Manu Joseph. Sharin is round. Sharin is gone. Yeah, Chimamanda and Akwaeke are the new feud, guys. The hot goss of the literary world.
I'd put Jeffrey Archer, saw him on JLF. Do you think throwing J.K. Rowling into this would just like make it way too controversial now that she's cancelled and everything with this thing, or would it just be...
Of course, you should put you want this to be good content. So we have to put Manu Joseph, we have to put J.K. Rowling, we have to put Akwaeke, Maisie and Chimamanda. We have to put Durjoy because Durjoy is hilarious. I love him.
And through a personal account, which one was she 3 on?
She was Books on Toast. I am on my personal account.
Try and add her again. Jeffrey Archer will be sleeping. He needs his meds and sleep.
Yeah, he's a little old now, guys.
But yeah, I was very I did not know this. Vivek had out in the comments that apparently.
Hi.
Hello, you're back.
Hi, sorry. Yes, network.
Yeah, apparently the 100 Years of Solitude ka translation more than the original. So that's something like new.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Like, wow, that's something I did. Like I remember, but okay. So again, I want to come back to something we talked about earlier. Sharin, you mentioned you read Cersei like thrice, right? And so this is something that I often struggle with, particularly with books which are very emotive and bring out like strong emotions within you. And particularly, like Cersei is like one of the best examples for this. Do you sometimes feel that books take a toll on you? Like, I mean, it might intellectually enrich you, might make you feel a lot of things emotionally, but it you with this heavy heart which you have to carry for a while. I mean, this has happened to me with a couple of books or so, but I don't know. Like, does this happen with?
I think, of course, it happens with many of us. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with reading, right, is it's such an immersive experience. I mean, I'm sure, we've talked about how it doesn't really have to be as invested in experience as well. But for me, when I read, I really read like very deep, right? And I read, and I have certain books that I read and reread quite a lot. When I'm in a certain state of mind, right? Like I know that if I want to really cry and I'm not able to cry, that I'll read Home Fire. It really takes an emotional toll on me because these are books that sort of evoke certain emotional things in my own self, right? So Cersei again is like a very deep book to read as well in many ways. So I feel like a lot of it is to do with catharsis. I mean, we are all, I guess, just coping with the hands we are played. So that's just how I mean, I know how to live my life. So yeah, it's okay to overfeel, bro. It's fine.
Anuya, like
what?
Anuya is not paying attention. She is having her own conversation.
उसका अलग चल रहा है.
Yeah.
दारू.
Dude, Hemingway for Daru would be great, I feel. Like
he'll make sure there is enough snuck in. Anyway. May he rest in peace.
How much overfeeling with books are you okay with, and how do you like cope with it? Like a book that makes you overfeel things, or like just takes an emotional toll.
I love books that make me overfeel things. Isn't that why we read? To overfeel?
Anuya, focus. Answer.
No, but
say
isn't that why? Isn't that why we read? To overfeel.
Yeah.
I mean, like, don't we want to be moved and affected? And changed in some way. If that's not why we're reading, then why are we reading?
No, I mean, I would agree with that to an extent, right? I mean, sure, like that should be a goal for that you're pushing yourself, exploring yourself, reading and growing emotionally and mentally. But I know I've sometimes seen that people have had this odd things with books wherein they know a particular book, like as Sharin mentioned, that a book will make her cry, right? And it would make her feel things, and yet they keep going back to the book in a very odd. They have like a toxic equation with the book, which I mean, I've been there. Like for me, that was very contextually, particularly my favorite book is that book for me, like a book that I can't stop crying after reading or while reading, right? But do you think that's like just something that is something that should try and work past, or just like embrace wholeheartedly, like this?
So here's another way of looking at it. What are the other reasons you would read?
Fair enough. I would like read, maybe like I don't know, like a lot of people read to like increase their vocabulary,
right? But that's the reason why people don't read, right? I think it's again like it's an emotional relationship you form with what you are reading, and which is why like sometimes when you're reading something and you're not really vibing with it, you're not really liking it, even though like a lot of people would recommend ke ye kitab padhni chahiye. If you don't read this book, you will die. Like I hated Tolkien. Like I hate it. Lord of the Rings series, and I know like a lot of people will like kill me for this but I just really didn't vibe with that book, not at that emotional level which people wanted me to. But A Song of Ice and Fire I love, right? So it's just one of those things. So I mean, for me, one of the reasons I think as readers we are so passionate and opinionated about what we read is because we emotionally connect with the novel. And of course, it's supposed to be a toxic relationship. Of course, it's going to supposed to carry you with the wave. Otherwise, why would you keep reading? I mean, that's how I process it. I mean, if something is told to me to read as homework, I will never read it. It's just as simple.
Right. Oh, okay. By the way, full disclosure, I'm a lawyer by training, so I was just trying to play devil's advocate. Like I'm completely doing this, like going back to rereading books and crying over them. Done this way too many times to go against it. And the point that you made, dude, like I don't get why people, like I mean, I get the cult culture behind certain books and certain authors, but ye to mujhe oh, you don't write like Tolkien, so you can't call yourself a reader. What kind of reader are you if you're not liking Tolkien? But nahi pasand, nahi vibe kiya, nahi. I think it was in one of AIB videos, I think about, but it was in regard to TV shows. कि एक second, हमारा social context अलग है. I grew up in a different household. मेरी upbringing अलग है, मेरा family economic background अलग है. But how can you not write the exact same shit that I like?
Yeah.
That is so nonsensical.
Never hang out with Rohan Joshi. Most opinionated human being in the world will constantly say, "Arey nahi dekha, nahi pada, mar ja."
But it's good in this day and age to be this opinionated and passionate about pop culture also. I mean, just saying.
What else is there, Sharin?
Nah, nothing.
What else is there?
Anuya, I will wrap this up, but I have just one question before we end this, for both of you, and like let's try and keep it short because you have to go. So, what was one book? Obviously, I'm not asking for your favorite book. By the way, this is not the cliched question I'm going for, but one book that actually impacted you and changed you as a person a lot. Like I have two books on that list. Like one is In Other Words by Jhumpa Lahiri, and one is The by Khalid Hosseini. That's largely because when I read it, I was 10 when I read The Kite, and it became my favorite book of all time, and I still cry when I read it. But and in other words, just gave me a whole new perspective on how I look at culture, society, and context, right? But yeah, so in that sense, what are those two books which just stand out for you? For each one of you, actually.
It's a tough question, bro.
Yeah, it's a lot of books have changed us.
Yeah.
It's like which this thing. कौन सी थी ऐसी कि हिल गई तुम्हारी?
I think the first book that made me feel that way was Life of Pi.
Okay.
Yeah, because I read it just after it had won the Booker, and as someone who notoriously hates prize-winning books because of how seriously they take themselves, I think for me, Life of Pi was life-changing because Spoiler alert for whoever hasn't read the book. I think that was my first brush with magical realism.
Oh.
And after that, I read Garcia Marquez, and that's how I fell in love with the genre. But the moment I was like, narrator unreliable bhi ho sakta hai. Like that moment. What?
That did not happen.
Did this happen? Did it not happen? Oh my God. That feeling I will never, ever forget. So I think that'll be my first book. And I think my second book is Book Thief.
Okay.
Because, I feel like we got a lot of, we've read enough and more historical fiction that talks about,
World War II.
What happened during World War II, right? But I thought Book Thief was unique because it told us the perspective of someone who was in Germany at a time that was being ruled by Nazis and disagreed fundamentally with the ideology, but didn't know what to do. I just related with that really hard because I wonder why. I don't know why I related. I don't know. Some reason must be. But anyway, I just thought.
So cute. Suddenly.
Yeah, I was really moved by that book. I mean, that I cried so much. Oh my God. I love that book. It's all, how it is read. It's a function of when you read it, what was going on in your life and the world. At that time, it's that a good book is always an intersection of time and place. Yeah, reader, who the reader is, and the time in their life that they're reading that book.
Agreed. Yeah, like the Kite Runner. I remember I was 10. My mother knew that I like to read. She had no idea of what like English books work, which ones are good. She just saw like the on the cover and it says Kite Runner, so she just assumed कि अच्छा कुछ अच्छा सा ही होगा.
It must be cute.
Must be cute सा ही book only. बच्चे को
Kite Runner child must be nice. Let's go.
nice. And oh my God.
I hate Kite Runner. Just hate. I love Thousand Splendid Suns. I just hate Kite Runner.
I tell everyone, right? Objectively, if I'm ever asked this question, like A Thousand Splendid Suns is objectively a way better book than The Kite Runner. But again, as you mentioned, like a function of time and place and who the reader is. Like a 10-year-old kid reading The Kite Runner was just, I am like, I can't like, I don't have like objective reasons to fight back people on when they tell me that, oh, they don't like The Kite Runner or, why it's not the better book out of.
Yeah.
And Sharin, what about you?
No, but I think I agree with what you're saying. I think Kite Runner, again, like I think because you were 10 when you read it, I'm sure because the protagonists were also the same age, right?
Yes.
Amir and whatever that other child's name was. So I can imagine how. There's no Shahrukh.
But some S only it is. S only, I think.
No, it's not S. What is the other child's name? I forget now. Forget it.
Hassan.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, again, like I think, I was 16 when I read Midnight Children, and it changed my life. I was going through, I remember, like a very difficult time in life. I mean, I was studying a subject that I didn't like. I had taken up medical. I was in +1, and I hated every second of my life at that point. And I'm like, "Kya botany mein chal raha hai?" And I was like, "Botany mein take one bloody stupid flower, dissect it, and see what is inside it." And that was the reproductive organs we were studying at the time. And I'm like, "What is going on in my brain? Like, I don't understand." And that's the time when I discovered Midnight Children, and it just again, I think something happened to me when I was reading it because it transported me to a different time. It made me look at I didn't know what was magical realism until I read that book. And then just for me to understand that there could be an alternate story to what happened.
Right.
And it could be magical. I was like, wow. And it was relatable to me because I come from a Punjabi household, so anybody who's born brought up in Punjab knows the story of partition like it happened to them. So that's the one PTSD all of us suffer face collectively as a society. So for me, these characters, the generals in Pakistan, what happened in India and all of that was very real. So when I read it, it just it did something to me, and I just immediately fell in love with Rushdie and the way he wrote. And of course, I went on to read everything he wrote, and then I've spoken about a lot about it. The other book that I read uh, in 2017, which I've already spoken about, but I want to talk about it a little bit more, is of course Home Fire. Again, I read it at a time when I was going through a series of emotional conflicts with myself as a person, with my friends, with my husband. So it was just a very very dark time personally for me. So when I read Home Fire, and the basis of Home Fire is that there is a girl who has to make the impossible decision of choosing between betraying another sister or her brother. I mean, it's an impossible choice, and of course it's contemporary version of Antigone, the classical Greek play, that it's an impossible choice. Whom do you choose and what do you do? So I just feel like these books really altered me as a person, as a human being. And a lot of people might not like these books because these are very heavy books to read also, but they just, I mean, I've been fans of Rushdie and Kamla Shamsi, so I mean, everything they do, I mean, I will fall at their feet and worship them. But it just made me who I am today. So no regret, regret. Yeah.
Right. I was the soul the moment you mentioned like +1 where you were doing something that you didn't like, and someone just commented.
Yeah, did you see that? Books to read when you're stuck in the wrong degree. When you're, that's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
ideas
Yeah.
there. But yeah,
Thanks.
okay. Like, thank you so much for this, guys. This was such a lovely conversation. I absolutely enjoyed this. I haven't laughed so much during an Instagram live or a podcast as you love this. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for doing whatever you guys have been doing. Genuinely, it makes us enjoy. Like, this is on behalf of everyone who follows Books on Tours. It makes us read and enjoy books a lot more. And thank you so much for that.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so
Thank
much,
you for
Siddharth. It
asking
was really
us.
nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Fuck you, Vivek. Get better taste in life.
Okay.
How are you gonna put it on YouTube? Please explain that to me. How are you gonna explain anything?
Yes, on this brilliant note, I think thank you, Vivek, for giving us a brilliant close, guys. Bye. Bye.
Are we leaving?
Bye, guys.
Okay, bye.
Okay,
Bye, everybody.
bye. Bye. Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for this. Bye.
Bye.